Good afternoon, everybody. Chris Gilmore, WPTV anchor here for another quick update for you on what's been going on in Surfside, Florida. One of the bigger stories we've been covering for the past 2 weeks or a week or so. It'll be a week tomorrow, Thursday of last week at 1:30. Champlain Tower South condo collapsed, and we're still dealing with the aftermath now. It just got offset with a press conference down there from officials giving the latest update. For those of you who are joining us, feel free to ask any questions, comments, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. But from the officials, we now can tell you that there were 4 additional victims that were found in the rubble, and now 12 next of kin notifications that were made. So right now you see those names of those individuals scrolling on the bottom of your screen. So 16 total people found on the rubble pile, and the search and rescue effort continues right now, still very active, even though we are in day 6 or 7 of the search and rescue. Day 7, I believe, because it started on the day of the collapse. So 26 organizations down there assisting those families of survivors, and still a lot of hope going on, and just a lot of people out there really pushing on those first responders. The urban search and rescue team still out there working in 12-hour shifts around the clock. And the concern now is the weather. One of the many factors that are going on in South Florida. If you have been watching the weather or news at all, you know that we're in the middle of hurricane season. And if you've seen the press conferences, you see intermittently there's rain, just completely washing out operations there for a little bit. But when there's lightning, they have to stop and pause, wait for those cells to pass through. And right now we have 2 tropical waves brewing out in the Atlantic that can divert operations a little bit. But for now, all the tools and resources that they need are on the ground, on that rubble pile. Melissa, I see your question. To do a quick recap, it's been a very busy week in South Florida. On Thursday, 1:30 in Surfside, Florida, just north of Miami, a condo building, 12 stories, collapsed, destroying immediately 55 units, but also creating a huge debris and rubble zone that you see on your screen there. Right now, we can tell you that there's 147 people unaccounted for and 16 bodies that have been recovered in the midst of all that debris and rubble. So a lot of families affected. This is definitely an international issue. We have assistance coming in from Mexico, from Israel. You have South American politicians' families affected by this, South American tourists who are affected by this as well. This is an area where a lot of Latino and South American people visited or vacationed. There were several people who were staying as guests of owners and residents of the condo buildings trying to get their COVID vaccine. Not even necessarily for something that you would consider a vacation, trying to, get vaccinated against the COVID virus. You have other people who've lived in the building for years. Hilda Noriega, one of the most recent names that have been released, 92 years old. He's been a long-time resident of the building. As the fallout of this, we're also seeing a lot of lawsuits. At last time I checked, there were at least 3 against Champlain Towers South. So a lot of people wanting answers out of this. And we ran some pieces this morning from our reporter, Cameron Lappinger, talking about the potential for a grand jury investigation, which would be closed door, but also have a lot of subpoena power under oath to bring in witnesses and people who know about the inner workings of what was going on in the Champlain Towers, and can possibly lead to criminal investigations into negligence and wrongdoing. So a lot weighing on this, and still a lot of hope going on in there. I know yesterday during one of these quick little updates on social media, one of the questions were, hey, Chris, when does this go from search and rescue into recovery? Well, that question was again asked not to me, but to the mayor of Surfside, Charles Burkett, and his answer was echoing that of Governor Ron DeSantis, who was also at the press conference. He said that this is going to go on until we pull everyone out of there. So one way or another, they are not stopping, full steam ahead. Yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis said, citing his, military career, you're missing until you're found, and we don't stop the search. So there you have it there. In terms of, do they think anyone will survive Yesenia? It was pretty clear yesterday and today that there's still hope, that they're working so feverishly because there's a chance, given all the factors at play, that somebody can be down there. Charles Burkett again brought up yesterday in the press conference that there's a case out in Bangladesh, a factory collapse where somebody was extracted alive 17 days after the collapse. And it was also brought up by Miami-Dade Fire Rescue yesterday that 37 individuals were removed alive from the rubble. So there were survivors. Right now, the total number, everything is fluid in terms of the number that's missing, in terms of the number of bodies, in terms of the number of survivors, in terms of those that are missing. I did not say Mexican names are at the bottom of the screen. I said the survivors' names are at the bottom of the screen, that there were Mexican rescuers that were brought in from their search and rescue teams to assist in those first responders that are in Surfside right now. And in addition to that, there are also rescuers from Israel that are assisting those first responders. Sharon, you mentioned tunnels and air pockets. That's correct. They call them voids. And there's also a trench that they dug. I don't know if you could see it from the video that we have there, to better access what they believe might be pockets of air or voids, so that it might be possible for somebody to survive. So that trench, 40 feet deep, and I believe 124 different 124 feet long. So lots of different ways that they're trying to get to the people that are under there. Heavy machinery, bucket brigades, those urban rescue teams, 12-hour shifts. A lot of them are so dedicated to reaching whatever might be under there that they're having to pull them off of this pile and do health and wellness checks before they're allowed back on. But it's definitely a tense situation. A lot of people down there. We have our field anchors, our reporters, our photographers down there closely monitoring the situation, along with a lot of other media outlets, both locally and nationally. President Biden is going to be in town tomorrow visiting the site and dealing with the first responders and talking to those affected families. And it's definitely a fluid and developing situation. Nancy, you mentioned, are they closing down the other side of that building? I can't say with certainty, but I'm almost positive that the rest of that building, Champlain Towers South, has been evacuated just because of questions about its structural integrity at this point. We ran last week that there was a sister building in Surfside that was built around the same time, 1981, from the same developer, a similar structure. And I believe there was a voluntary evacuation. A lot of people did not feel comfortable until there was a recertification that was done, something that is mandatory at the 40-year point for a lot of buildings there within that municipality. This current building, Surfside, the Champlain Towers South, was in the midst of going through one of these recertifications when this collapse happened. There was roof work being done, several residents tell us, and now documents coming to light showing that the board of the Surfside and several government entities, and as well as the Homeowners Association board, they have been pretty vocal and transparent about letting their concerns be known that, hey, there were issues. These just didn't come up. There was corroding rebar and crumbling concrete that was of concern. And several other reports that we've ran let it be known that there was millions of dollars worth of renovations that were getting ready to get done as well. So the primary focus, though, now is to obviously stay in full search and rescue mode, but the wheels of the legal system are also churning in this. I mentioned that the grand juries might be called in. Several state attorneys have indicated that they are reaching out to them, letting them know that they would be interested in moving forward with the grand jury investigation. One has not been impaneled yet, but that is still an option that's on the table. And I mentioned also the several lawsuits that have already been filed. So if you guys have any questions as far as, what came out of the press conference today, what are the next steps, how are things moving, I can try and answer those for you. One thing that was brought up in today's press conference that a lot of people will need to be cognizant of as they're trying to help from afar or locally is that they are several GoFundMe sites that are potential scams that are out there. That was brought up during today's meeting. There are several websites, though. I tweeted about them. Let me see if I can pull up my Twitter page here for you in a second. Several sources that they say are credible that you can go to make sure that your money is going directly to the people that need it. And one of those websites cited by the Department of Emergency Management down in Miami-Dade County, that's surfsidestrength.com. And also the Miami-Dade County commissioners and mayor mentioned miami-dade.gov/emergency as a place you can go to not only find your resources, but also make sure your funds are going directly to the Surfside community and the relief efforts down there. So here we go. Jeff Hewitt asking, how far into the pile have they gotten? How much further before they reach the bottom? It's a huge debris pile, definitely overwhelming. I can tell you, Jeff, that yesterday it was reported that 3 million pounds of concrete so far have been removed. We've seen them approach this from all sides. Initial footage you saw might have featured the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Crews and the urban rescue teams going from the garage, which was the most accessible at that point, not necessarily the most stable. The entire structure is unstable, but they had supports and scaffolding set up in the garage to prop up the slabs that were still, albeit precariously, standing up, trying to see if there were any survivors there. That trench allows them to attack it from the side. And as they are doing the careful forensic removal of the debris, they're also using heavy machinery to peel back the layers. It's been described as kind of a pancake. You can imagine 12 layers on top of each other. They're trying to pry back those layers. And it's unstable concrete. It's crumbling in a lot of places. It's the rebar snapping. So it's definitely a very ginger situation as they try to, get to the rest of those 147 unaccounted for people. 139 accounted. Again, 12 next of kin notifications have been made. That means their closest family members have been notified, and that means that then their identities can be released. So that's why we are scrolling the names of those 12 on the bottom of your screen. However, there's an additional 4 bodies that were recovered that have not been identified, or their identities not been released because they're still trying to reach out to their families. As far as pets, I haven't heard anything about that, Mirav, but you can almost assume with so many units destroyed that at least one of them had some pets, and that's certainly part of their recovery process. They're looking for anything alive at this point. Deborah's bringing up something I haven't heard, that it was not a pet condo, so I'm hoping that's right. That could very well be. That's a question that we can ask our crews that are actually there in Surfside right now. We have Cameron Eppinger, Ryan Hughes, Michael Williams will be there. I know Mike Trim will be there tomorrow morning, field anchoring in advance of the president's visit. So I can definitely get back to you. I'm probably going to be doing another one of these Facebook Lives or StreamYards tomorrow. So that will be something that I'll write down and make sure we can get to the bottom of. Pets are our family members too, to a lot of people. So it's definitely important. Just a quick recap again, though. A lot of changes have come out of this in terms of positive policy and change. The Miami-Dade County last week issued a state of emergency as they were assisting the Surfside crews, the state crews, the national, federal, FEMA crews that were working this as well. And part of that cause for state of emergency is not only the resources that they're diverting to Surfside, but also because they issued a lot of aid and resources towards immediate audit of all the buildings 40 years or older within the Miami-Dade community. And coming out of that, it was announced during yesterday's conference that 4 balconies have been closed off from the public while safety issues are getting addressed. So definitely immediately trying to get to the bottom of this and making sure it doesn't happen in other areas. We mentioned the sister tower of Champlain Towers South. A lot of people don't feel safe thinking that there might be similar issues in that building. So definitely waiting to get the engineers on that as well. In terms of future, tomorrow, the president I mentioned earlier will be there, President Biden, as well as the First Lady, visiting the site, visiting with families, visiting with the first responders. There are more than 210 people actively working that pile, is what we heard yesterday. So a lot of hands on this, and the eyes of the world really watching what's going on over there. So if you guys have any other questions, I can try and answer them. I see Elaine's comment there about design error. Yeah, a lot of investigations coming out of that. I've been reading a lot of the outlets stories, as well as the print publications from the Miami Herald. A lot of good investigative work coming out of there. Our investigative team, Michael Bitchner, Dave Bowman, have been looking into similar issues with this whole recertification process. How are these people who are signing these recertification documents, where are they coming from? Are they hired by the developers? Where's the paper trail in terms of how often prior to the recertification that maintenance was done on these buildings? So that's a good point that you brought up there, Elaine. So with that, one quick recap of the numbers before I leave you guys for today. 4 additional victims found in the rubble. That brings the total to 16 bodies recovered from Surfside in that partial condo collapse. 12 next of kin notified. May they rest in peace. We see their names scrolling at the bottom of your screen there. Their families, our thoughts and prayers are with them. Still 139 unaccounted for. Or 139, accounted for, 147 accounted for, and 37 safely rescued from the structure. So that is the recap there. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's a lunch break for a lot of you guys, but if you want any more updates, you can download the WPTV, the WFLX app. You can also follow those broadcast publications on your streaming platforms and OTT. We are constantly updating these stories. On Facebook and Twitter, you can look for updates there as well. Our next newscast at 4 o'clock, you can look for all the stories that our reporters have been working hard on. This is surely going to take up a large portion of our newscast, as there is still a very developing, serious situation going on in Surfside. So thank you guys for joining us. It's a tough story to cover, but we're trying to get you all the facts that we can, and bear with us as we, find out the next developments here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a good day.